Hello, YouTubers. Pardon the popping there. Um, it's Joe Kersey here on Sunday, February 2nd, 2014 at 1700 in the afternoon Eastern Time. The feast of the presentation of our Lord Jesus Christ in the temple, or the feast day that is also commonly known as Candlemas. Candlemas was, or is, for all I know, the day in which the annual supply of beeswax candles would be brought into the church to be blessed. Hence Candlemas. In the medieval church, particularly in England, you had a number of these guilds, small little guilds in each parish that would take care of various things around the church, very much like the altar guild in various churches now. The altar guild, gets supplies for the altar and dresses the altar and the various linens and hangings and this and that for the liturgical season, and so that's sort of the remnant guild, from that practice. But centuries ago, you had a number of guilds. You had the Candle Guild, and what this was a group of people in the parish that agreed to get together and raise money to buy the beeswax candles, which were fairly expensive and still are a very expensive item for churches. And in the medieval period, the churches had all sorts of candles burning all the time. First of all, there weren't any electric lights, so if you wanted to see it all in the church when the light, when the light failed, when night fell, very early morning, you had to have candlelight. And there were, even though the Western Church didn't really have icons per se, like the Eastern Church does, the Western Church would still have candles in front of statues, and you'd have these little sort of prie-dieux and side altars where people would want to kneel and pray and light a candle, and then you had candles going, on candles on the altar. And of course, if it was just an office, sometimes you'd have more than the 2 candles on the altar. And they generally tried to do beeswax because the tallow from cattle and hogs and so forth smoked. The beeswax candles didn't smoke, and so the interior of the church ones get black, as black as it would if you had just burned beeswax candles. It's a very premium way to go. Also, you had the Candle Guild, and you had of course, a guild of guys that decided, they would get together to try to do maintenance on the church, masons and carpenters and any other sort of artisan that would get involved in this. And of course, another function of these guilds was that it was like a very early insurance fund. It's like these pissant burial insurance policies that term life burial policies that people buy. They used to be very popular in the South. Maybe they still are. Guys would go around door to door and collect 25 cents, 35, 40 cents a week from people on these little pissy $200, $300, $2,000 term life burial policies. You died, and here's some money to bury your loved one. And all you have to do is pay us, so much per week, and the guy'd go around and collect it each week, and that was a big deal back in the, well, early and mid 20th century. It might still be. I don't know. Well, you actually see some of this stuff advertised on TV. It's the equivalent of, like, you have the two women sitting talking about, oh, Social Security didn't pay enough for my husband's burial, and the other one says, well, you need to get Colonial this or Johnny Mop that, and it paid $2,500. Nowadays, that may be enough just to get you burned up, which, basically, if that's all you want to do, and that's basically all I want to do. But, natural gas prices are dropping. It'll be interesting to see if the cost of a cremation drops in accordance with the net dropping natural gas prices here with all the fracking going on. So we'll have to stay tuned and watch on that one, won't we? So, without getting too far afield here, Feast of the Presentation in the Temple. Well, of course, this is one of my favorite scenes from the Gospels. Mary and Joseph bring Jesus into the temple because the Jewish law said the firstborn male has to be presented in the temple, and they do a sacrifice. If you're rich, you do a lamb. If you're relatively poor, you do a couple of turtle doves or pigeons. Just killing that animal makes it okay. Well, see, what people forget is that all that was eaten, all that was distributed to the poor. Obviously the priest got a certain cut of it, but these animals weren't wasted. They were eaten. Sort of like the public slaughterhouse of Jerusalem, in addition to being what was considered to be the dwelling place of God here on earth. And while they're there, here comes up Simeon, and the following encounter takes place. And I'm going to read it to you out of the Authorized Version, more popularly called the King James Version. So I'm going to just read this to you here, and then we'll go farther afield with it. And behold, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon, and the same man was just and devout, waiting for the consolation of Israel. And the Holy Ghost was upon him. And it was revealed unto him by the Holy Ghost that he should not see death before he had seen the Lord's Christ. And he came by the Spirit into the temple. And when the parents brought in the child Jesus to do for him after the custom of the law, then took he him up in his arms and blessed God and said, Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace, according to thy word. For mine eyes have seen thy salvation, which thou hast prepared before the face of all people, a light to lighten the Gentiles, and the glory of thy people Israel. And Joseph and his mother marveled at those things which were spoken of him. And Simeon blessed them and said unto Mary his mother, Behold, this child is set for the fall and rising again of many in Israel, and for a sign which shall be spoken against. Yea, a sword shall pierce through thine own soul too, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. Wow. What a moment. What an encounter. And of course, the Nunc Dimittis is one of my very favorite canticles. And I always like it when they end it properly. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost, and as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. I think Paul is arriving home from work. Thanks be to God. That means he got home relatively safely, unless he's coming in all bloodied up. Well, he didn't look bloodied up. He looks functional. He comes carrying some sort of pizza-oid container. Oh, well, very good. More salt loading for us. More salt loading for us. He brought home something last night that was this prosciutto stuff that they found in a room after a guest had checked out. Or, I'm sorry, a paying client had checked out. And it had 5 little thin slices. I mean, these were thin slices of prosciutto. And so they said a serving was 2 slices. Well, a serving had 70 calories. Okay, so 140 and then 35. That's 175 calories for the whole package. All right. But in each 2 slices, there was, check this out, 750 milligrams of sodium. So yours truly gobbled down the whole bag. And so that meant I had like almost 1,800 milligrams, almost 2 grams of sodium. In this sort of, now I tried to stretch it out. I tried to savor it. Like my dad always said, you got to savor it. Well, sometimes something like this just isn't going to be savored all that much. But my word, hell, I should have just gone and had a couple of cans of chicken noodle soup instead. It'd be about the same amount of sodium.
Expensive.
Well, but it was free. You didn't buy it. No, you found it in the store, in the room.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's expensive. I mean, it's idiotically expensive. Well, now he's bringing, what do you got? Oh, you got razors and, you have razors and drugs and stamps. Razors, drugs, and stamps. Oh, well. Oh, okay, that's him housekeeping for himself. Good. Well, now, we got a bit far afield from the point of today's sermon, and so we will back to that here. So our deacon Roseanne preached today at the 10:30 service. I went to the 10:30 service, and well, it was, I've gotten to the point where I only go to the 10:30 service if I'm going to read. But I went today because this judge friend of mine is reading, and I like to hear him read. And it's fun to see. It's fun to see people because I mean, I like all these people, obviously. But the people at 10:30 really like me, and I like them, and we get along very well. And I guess we ought to after 19 years. And yeah, and yeah. Now I'm accepted as one of them after 19 years.
I made one of the good.
Yeah, one of the good. So, I had set out the prayer list yesterday, and of course, and I hesitate sending out an email saying, update me before I send out the prayer list. But, because when I do, I don't get many responses. But when I don't, the next day, when I see these folks, I get all sorts of updates right off the bat, which is what I sort of thought would happen, and it did happen. So I was happily taking notes all the way through, pre-service, during the P's, post-service. So I sent out updates when I got home from church today, which I did safely. Thanks be to God. Well, anyway, Roseanne's sermon was a good sermon, and it had one basically thematically interesting point. Well, that's what she had to say. That's what she said. Um, it dealt with the fact that a lot of times when you're going to have an encounter with God, most of the work is done by just showing up and placing yourself in the presence of God. You know, she said, here's Joseph and Mary. They showed up. Here's Simeon. He showed up. And then later in the gospel reading of today, it was Anna the prophetess. She showed up. And well, indeed, sounds like she'd been showing up here for about 80 years. But, you know, it's showing up, making yourself available to God. Well, I like that idea. And, excuse me. And so I said to her afterwards, you know, and I tend to be a bit, well, I sound like I don't take things seriously, but I do. I said, well, you know, there's a saying that 90% of life is just showing up. That's true. It is, really. I said, does that mean that there's only a 90% chance of encountering God when you show up? You know, which, obviously, I knew the answer to that one, but she says, oh, no. I said, yeah, I know. But, and then she got talking about when you write a sermon, well, at least in her case, and I've heard other guys say this too, is that, you know, you might start out with an idea that you want to talk about, but as contemplation and interaction with the scripture happens, then all of a sudden, and it's usually sort of like all of a sudden, you get some key words or key ideas that then you can go on. And in her case, this time it was just showing up. You know, these people all showed up. And assuming we have free will, which we do, well, there's two sort of kinds of that. But these folks showed up and did the will of God. So it's an interesting idea, and I have to admit my mind drifted just a tad today for, well, very extraneous reasons, but that's okay. And that's about it. So I think, anything you want to say, Paul?
Yep.
Oh, there it is. So, we're all here, home and safe, just north of 40 degrees latitude north. All right. Bye-bye.